right, hello everybody. Welcome into the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. Very late of us today, very spur of the moment, but we're here, Dalton, nonetheless. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Good. Things are crazy in my life right now, but in a lot of really good ways. So, yeah, man, just soaking it in. Excited to talk some ball tonight. We've got some fun subject matter tonight with regards to power rankings and whatnot. We even have a trade to talk about. So.
We do have a trade to talk about. I love this comment, by the way. John does math. He is back. John does math number one. And then you chimed in, Dalton, and said, I was starting to wonder if John still did math.
I mean, it's true. I haven't heard from him about his math much lately, so I don't know.
Mike Guido could never. Listen, now. There's a lot of things I can't do. Hats are, well, that's a good point. I have a really big head, but so does Dalton. So we can't really.
Yeah, but Mike, I'm telling you, these 970 by New Era hats, the stretch.
I was going to say, it looks good.
They're the move. Now, it's only because my hair's short right now. If my hair was longer, it just wouldn't fit. But while they're on right now, big game, huge game in St. Paul.
Yeah, by the way, you were at the playoff game last night in Minnesota, the Spurs T-Wolves game. Wemby getting tossed in the first quarter after that elbow into Naz Reid's face.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously not an NBA program, but him not getting suspended is absurd.
It's pretty wild.
Completely absurd.
It's because it's the playoffs, Dalton. You know that. It's because it's the
playoffs. But we've seen Zach Randolph get suspended for Game 7. We've seen Ron Artest get suspended for 6 playoff games. There's plenty of precedent for it.
Draymond Green getting suspended in a finals game.
I think the NBA just knows that OKC San Antonio is going to be a banger, and they don't want to ruin that. But
yeah. Well, I mean, if we're telling the truth, it will absolutely be a banger. So,
but as somebody who's rooting for the Wolves because my Lakers are all but dead, hey, man, give us a chance.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
listen, they won last night, so that's something.
It was a
so again, plenty of stuff to talk about today. Let's talk quickly before we do the power rankings, right? Before we break down everybody in tiers and do all that stuff. Let's talk about this trade that happened. Patrick Bailey getting sent to the Guardians. By the way, where's Tristan on this? Patrick Bailey getting traded to the Guardians from the San Francisco Giants. Again, he's over the course of his career so far has not been a great offensive player, but he's one of the best, if not the best, defensive catchers in the game. Right now, hitting 141 with 1 homer. So he has a 383 OPS, but boy, can he play defense. What do you make of this deal, Dalton? What stands out to you here?
Yeah, I mean, it's very Guardians in that, they're just doubling down on defense, which I think part of the thought process for the Guardians is that they don't think that they can play financially for big bats, right? And so for them, they're kind of just like, well, let's just double down on defense because I think we can afford defense. So I think that's part of it. I think it's more interesting from the Giants' perspective where, Buster Posey and Patrick Bailey were both catchers together in the Giants organization very briefly. Like they've worn catcher's gear on the field together. And I think Buster Posey, from little things that I've heard, just didn't have a very good relationship with Patrick Bailey. They weren't really communicating much. And I think Buster Posey feels differently about what kind of value he wants his catcher to be creating. And the Giants just didn't value what Patrick Bailey brought to the table. Now, certainly when you look at it at face value as a guy whose OPS is in the 300s, it's not hard to understand why that guy's expendable to your roster. But you could also make an argument he's the most valuable defender in baseball. So, I think that's what makes this especially interesting is, the Giants, I don't think they're really going anywhere this year either. And this tells me that they don't view him as their catcher now or in the future. So I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest, as a Dodger fan, I was happy to see the deal because I think Patrick Bailey's a heck of a player. Even though he can't hit, defensive value from a catcher is still value.
Yeah.
So I think Buster Posey's in a little bit over his head in general, but we'll talk more about the Giants as we get into those rankings.
Yeah. So I listen. I think it's funny how the Guardians in particular were the team to make this deal for a player like Patrick Bailey, simply because like they essentially brought in another Austin Hedges. Like that's pretty much what they did.
Yeah.
And Austin Hedges again is doing pretty well offensively this year, but he's got a career 561 OPS. The guy can't hit. So and neither can Patrick Bailey. So they're both great defensive catchers, but now they've double dipped on right-handed hitting defense first catchers, and this is what they're going for now. So yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean, I don't know what the Giants' plan is. I mean, all the rumors right now, obviously we had the Bob Nightingale report that said that the Giants are kind of wanting to start over. They want to dump the Devers contract. They want to get rid of Willie Adames. They want to get rid of Matt Chapman. They want to get rid of Jung-Hoo Lee. Like they really want to offload a lot of their big contracts. Before we get into power rankings, because obviously it's a bit of an abbreviated show today, but what do you make of their direction? Like, is that something that they should be looking at doing, is kind of offloading a lot of what they have and kind of starting a rebuilding process? Is that what you think they should do?
Probably. I mean, it's like I to be honest with you, I don't really think Buster Posey has earned a lot of trust as somebody who's very good at evaluating like how to build a team. Like it hasn't really worked. I mean, you think about the trade they made for Rafi Devers, and at the time you're like, well, they didn't pay all that much for him, but it just hasn't worked. And he's not aging gracefully, and that contract is not aging gracefully.
Right.
And I think to me, it just does, like, they seem to have tried to take a few shortcuts, I'll put it that way, right? And here they sit with what at the outset of the season is the 19th ranked farm system in baseball. Bryce Eldridge is now in the big leagues. You know, they've got another guy, Josuar Gonzalez, that they're waiting on eventually, but this is not like a team with a bunch of talent on the farm. And at the big league level, Logan Webb is now hurt again. You know, they just sent down Ryan Walker, who was their closer. They DFA'd him. Like, there's a certain level of frustration up and down the organization. And I think hiring Tony Vitello, a college coach who'd never coached in the major leagues, who seems in a little bit over his head as well, to me, the Giants need to start at the top, not at the bottom with the rebuild. Like, they need to bring in a general manager and a POBO, meaning, you know, president of baseball operations, who has some experience and has built a winner before and isn't just somebody they like in Buster Posey. Yeah. They probably need to bring in a manager who has managed at the big league level before. Yeah, and, you know, maybe it's not fair to Tony Vitello. He's, 40 games into his managerial career. And I'm not saying that he can't ever have success, but like, if you're truly trying to win now, I just don't think they're built to do that. And unfortunately for them, I don't think they're built terribly well for the future either. In my power rankings, which the way we're going to kind of do those is, it's kind of a now in later type of ranking, right? So the first 20 or so teams are teams that in theory are either playoff contenders or World Series contenders. And the last 9 teams on there are teams that are basically not in contention this year. And so then for those teams, it becomes evaluating their future. Well, I've got the Giants at 26, which puts them at a bottom 5 team in baseball. So it's not, I think they need to take a little bit of a harder look in the mirror than it sounds like they're willing to take.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to look inward and kind of take an inventory of the experiment that is not working, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning of the season, Dalton, the word I used to describe them was experimental, right? Like, this is a team that, again, Buster Posey in a, relatively new role as a general manager, Tony Vitello as a, like you said, a college coach coming in and immediately becoming a major league manager, just a totally different world in that respect. And this is a team that doesn't have a lot of positional versatility, right? They're playing Rafi Devers at first base a whole lot. So, what does this team actually have to offer? And you want to talk about, I mean, one of the biggest concerns you had, especially, and it kind of fits into the experimental mold, is that their bullpen was a bunch of nobodies. You know what I mean? So this was one of those things where they really needed to try and figure that out. And so far, it just simply has not happened. They're 16-24. They're a half game ahead of the Rockies for last place in the NL West. Like, it just has not worked out for them so far this season. It just hasn't. So, all right, let's get into those power rankings. So the way that here's how I'll kind of set this up. Dalton, you said that you kind of set this up and you kind of built it into 4 tiers, right? So the first tier is World Series contenders. And then your next tier is they can go on a playoff run and win a World Series if baseball goes haywire. That's your second one, right? So you're kind of like sporadic. Maybe they could make a run teams.
Yeah, the tier 2 are teams that, like, I feel pretty good about them being playoff teams, and baseball is baseball, so you never know, but I wouldn't consider them World Series contenders or favorites of any kind.
So, okay, so then your third tier is they can make the playoffs if things break their way, but they can't make a World Series. And then your last tier is looking out to the future.
Correct, yeah. And so what I kind of did is I sort of grouped the teams into those tiers and then ranked them within the tiers, right? So, like, the first 7 teams, and I'll kind of walk you through them as we go. The first, I think, Mike, a good way for us to do this is just, I'll kind of walk through these, and then, as you have comments or things that you might disagree with or want clarity on or want to argue about, ideally, you let me know it. But, I've got the Dodgers at number 1, Yankees at number 2. I don't think there's a whole lot of surprise or a whole lot to talk about with those two. Like, those are the clear best rosters in their respective leagues. For the Yankees, I think they've got a clear path to the World Series being in the American League as well, which helps them. After that, 3 through 7, these are the other teams that I have in World Series contention. I've got the Cubs at number 3, elite offense and defense there. I think they can cobble together enough pitching. The deadline's obviously going to be big for Chicago. The Braves at number 4. I mean, at this point, you have to buy into what they're doing. And if that pitching staff can stay healthy, I've got no reason to believe that team is not all the way back.
Yep.
I've got the Mariners at 5, which, might seem a little high given their current record, but I still think in a wide open American League, that's the second best roster in the American League.
Yeah, they're 19-22, and they're 2.5 back of the AL West. Like, that's just such a weak division.
And there are a few divisions that are kind of like that right now. You talk about the AL West, the AL Central too. Everybody's just kind of toiling in mediocrity. And so
the AL Central does not have a team over 500 currently.
Just wild.
The Guardians are in first place at 500.
And that's part of this exercise, is to kind of parse through that a little bit, right? Because I feel like right now, if you just look at the MLB standings, you're like, I mean, I see a few good teams, and then I see a whole bunch of slop, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I've got the Mariners at 5. Phillies, similar situation, right? They're under 500, but there's just too much there. They've been starting to figure it out since the managerial change with Rob Thompson. And then the last team I have in that top tier are the Brewers. And, I probably a few weeks ago wouldn't have had them this high, but look, this is a team that's top 5 in baseball in runs scored, despite being near the bottom of the league in homers. And they're doing it with Yelich, Jackson Chourio, and Andrew Vaughn having barely played at all. Obviously you got to see what that pitching staff looks like up close, and with Mizorowski throwing, I think it was like 22 balls at 102 or higher against the Yankees.
Jacob I don't know how anybody hits him ever. He's gross. And I sent you the most like non-casual baseball text, by the way, over the weekend. And I literally said, dude, Aaron Ashby is gross.
He is. I mean, so the Aaron Ashby, the thing with him is, and there's some similarity to the Miz. Obviously, we're dealing like at different degrees of this, right? But with Ashby, the issue's never been stuff. It's always been like, can this guy throw enough strikes? And this year he's been throwing strikes.
Yeah, you literally sent me a text. You responded to that text and said, if Aaron Ashby throws strikes, he's unhittable.
Yeah.
And it's true. He's unhittable.
Yeah, the stuff is gross. And, the Brewers have proven that they can consistently find and create these types of guys. And it's what keeps them where they are. So, I do think the Brewers are World Series contenders. I don't think they're top tier World Series contenders, but they're the last team I have in that top category.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this before I move to the next one. Is there any one of those 7 teams that you would object to being in the teams that can win the World Series category?
No. I think I'm trying to think of who else you could include in that list. I think the first team that comes to mind for me, actually, okay. So there's 2 teams in it, and I'm assuming they're going to be in the next tier. But the 2 teams that are excluded are the Tampa Bay Rays and the San Diego Padres, right? Those 2 teams that have had good starts to the season, they're sitting in first place in their respective divisions, but are not in this tier. I mean, again, I'm assuming you're going to go more in depth in the next tier, but those are the 2 that stand out to me so far. Obviously.
Yeah, well, you hit it on the head with my team number 8 and team number 9. So this next tier goes 8 through 15, and these are teams who can make a playoff run. And the way I wrote it in my Google Doc is, I guess they can win the World Series if baseball goes haywire. Mm-hmm. The Tampa Bay Rays at number 8, like, I do think this team is legit. I mean, with Shane McClanahan looking like old Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen has been one of the more underrated pitchers in baseball for a long time. Nick Martinez looks like an incredible signing by them. And then you think about what the top 3 in that lineup have done with Aranda, Caminero, and Yandy Diaz. I mean, Junior Caminero, like, he doesn't get talked about this way, but that's a top 10 hitter in baseball for my money.
He's
so I do think it's fair to wonder, like, is there enough depth here to withstand a full season? That's kind of my concern with the Rays. Yeah. Like, they're close to being in that top tier for me, but like, what if one of those top 2 pitchers gets hurt? How do you win playoff series? Like, it just gets harder for me to imagine. Yeah. And it's the same thing with their lineup. Like, they've got 3 guys that are elite, and after that, it's kind of just a bunch of also-rans. It's a lot of, Cedric Mullins and Gavin Lux and Taylor Walls and
Ben Williamson, and right.
Yeah. So I, I'm not sure there's quite enough there. And similarly with the Padres, like, well, the Padres are, like, the bullpen has been awesome, right? It's been, as advertised, number 2 in baseball in xFIP. Everything else about that team is middling at best. Like, the starting pitching has been just okay. Fernando Tatis hasn't hit a homer yet, which is insane.
That's alarming. That's really crazy.
And the hard hit rate is there for him. There's reason to believe that he's okay. But, like, I mean, I'm just putting it out there. Like, this is a guy who was hitting for a lot of power before he got popped for PEDs.
I mean, well, that's certainly a legit concern, right? I mean, Tatis right now through 39 games has a 611 OPS. I mean, that's bad. Like, 611 is bad.
And Manny Machado's hitting what, 207?
Yeah, Manny's hitting 191, and he has a 647 OPS.
Yeah. So, I mean, then those are supposed to be your guys, right? I mean, I think Jackson Merrill's been okay, but he's been just okay. And so, when you think about San Diego and what they're supposed to be, I mean, I guess there are 2 different ways you can look at this, right? You can look at it as their performers haven't performed yet, and they're still playing well overall. What happens when they turn the corner? Or you can look at it and go, Manny Machado's getting older. Tatis's power hasn't looked the same since he got popped for PEDs in general. And outside of them, there's a lot of guys here. I mean, Merrill being the exception, but there's a lot of guys on that roster offensively that were kind of just thrown together last minute. You and I talked about that preseason, right? Yeah. And so, like, right now, San Diego's 25th in baseball in WRC+. They're just not a good offensive team. And, I think a bullpen can only carry you so far. Like, so I just San Diego, again, they're tier 2 for me. You have to give them credit for their record. They're clearly a playoff contender. I don't know that they're much more than that.
Yeah.
The rest of this tier, 10 through 15. So I've got Arizona at 10. I think they're going to get healthier. And I think, you and I talked about how for them, a lot of the early part of the season is just about treading water. Like, they know they're going to get bullpen pieces back. They know they're going to get Corbin Burns back eventually. So far, they've done a decent job of that, and they've done that with Ketel Marte not hitting at all. So I think they're probably a playoff team if I had to guess.
Yeah.
I feel kind of similarly about the Rangers with regards to where they're at. I mean, there's really solid depth to that roster. DeGrom has been in borderline prime form. They're in a weak division. The Blue Jays are a tricky one. Like, it's hard for me to not believe in that culture and that they'll turn things around and look better as the season goes along. But a lot of guys have regressed. And
Yeah.
like the starting pitching outside of Dylan Cease hasn't really been great. The bullpen's been the bright spot for them, kind of like San Diego. But unfortunately for the Blue Jays, it hasn't been enough to get them over 500.
Right. Yep.
And then I've got that triumvirate of teams in the AL Central, the Royals, Guardians, and Tigers. Like, one of those teams is gonna have to win that division. And it's your guess is as good as mine as to which one it is.
Yeah. So okay. I think so. Here's the thing. In reality, and I think it's just at this point hard for me to wrap my head around the idea that legitimately, and obviously it's still early on in the season, but that half the league still has a shot at the World Series. Like that's really the fact that tier 2 is this big, I think is the part that's troubling for me, right? So like, I don't know that I buy that the Royals and the Rangers can win a World Series. I just don't know that I buy that. Like, now, again, like you said, the way that you phrased it was they could win a World Series if baseball goes haywire. This would be like if we went into like a cosmic torrential storm of shit. Like, this is what would have to happen for them to win a World Series. Like, I don't know that I'm there with those teams. If you like, I would buy, like, okay, the Rays could. If the Padres learned how to hit, they could. The Diamondbacks are still scrappy. I think you got to give respect to the Blue Jays, but I think outside of that, I don't know that any of those other teams can make it. Like, I don't think there's an AL Central team right now that I'm confident would win a playoff series at the moment. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. I mean, I think part of my thought process here is, those three teams, the Tigers, Royals, and Guardians, Fangraphs has all three of them between 25 and 35% to win that division, right? So it's kind of wide open between the three of them.
Right.
One of those three teams is going to get a home series in the division series. One of those three teams is going to be a division winner, right? And when I look at the American League in general, I'll say this: I think the three NL Central teams that I'm going to talk about next, I think those three teams are better than the three AL Central teams. The problem for those three NL Central teams is they've got the Cubs, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Phillies to deal with.
Right.
These AL Central teams, if you don't run into the Yankees first, the Royals can beat the Mariners in a series if things break their way. The Tigers can beat the Mariners in a series, right? Like, I think those teams can be competitive with the Blue Jays, right? So, like, I guess that's more what it comes down to for me is in the AL, if you get any chaos that breaks your way, you got a shot. So
right.
that's more what it comes down to for me.
All right. So tier 3 for you goes like what?
So tier 3 is a bit smaller. This is 16 through 21. And these are teams who I think can make the playoffs. They're less likely to, but these are teams who, for me, their playoff hopes are still alive and worth fighting for. Okay. These are teams that I don't think can win the World Series at this point. 16th, I've got the Reds. They're an interesting one. These three NL Central teams, I just told you why they're here and not above. It's because they're in the NL. But for the Reds, like, vibes have kind of shifted downwards a bit since we last talked about them, but I still think there's enough there. They can make a run. I think they're a little bit more complete than the Cardinals or the Pirates. But again, I mean, these teams at the bottom 60% of the NL Central, the Reds, Cardinals, and Pirates, who I have 16 through 18 in that order, they're all kind of fun teams with potential. The Cardinals are really fun. Those young guys for them have really been growing and gelling. I mean, you think about what Jordan Walker's done, what JJ Weatherholt's done. That lineup is legitimately fun. They can't really pitch, but the vibes are good. They're a fun team to watch. I could see them getting into a wild card round and making a little noise before getting crushed in an LDS. But and kind of the same with the Pirates. Like, there is some meat on the bone there. Like, Paul Skeens is still Paul Skeens. The lineup is better. It's working better than I thought it would. I still have concerns about them as a defensive outfit, and it feels to me like a little bit of a paper tiger. But hey, they're at 18. They're not at 8, right? And then rounding out this tier, I've got 3 teams that are kind of stragglers in different ways. We've got the A's at 19, and story's simple with them. They can really hit, and they can't really pitch. Can't make it that, like, the AOS seems pretty rough. That might be feisty enough to keep them in it, but I don't think they end up winning that division, even though they're in first place now. The Orioles, again, there's
sort of the same story.
Yeah, there's talent, but they can't really pitch. My belief in them as an organization is waning. And then, Mike, at 21, we've got the New York Mets.
I was curious if you were going to put them in there. Yeah.
Yeah, look, here's the deal with the Mets. They have the worst record in baseball, but it is May 11th. And the worst record in baseball does not mean that you're out of the playoff picture yet, right? So I'm not willing to write an obituary for their season. I still think they can make the playoffs. At this point, it's hard for me to see them becoming a World Series team. It just feels like there's too much going wrong. I mean, at this point, we don't know when Luis Robert or Bo Bichette are going to play. Like, Lindor was terrible and now hurt. Juan Soto is Juan Sotoing, which is very helpful for them, but virtually everything else is not going well. Right. And it's a shame because Nolan McLean has been as good, if not better, than advertised. Like, the pitching has been okay, but the vibes are really bad in Queens. It's relatively shocking to me that Carlos Mendoza still has his job.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. I mean, especially like you look at Philly where the vibe shift has worked. And that's not to say that Rob Thompson wasn't doing anything right, but like sometimes you just need a new voice.
Yeah. So it's funny because the Mets are either last or second to last in most offensive categories, right? They are top 10 in virtually every pitching and defense category.
Yeah.
So they are getting the value in pitching. They have been the worst offensive team in baseball.
And Mike, another problem for the Mets, because you and I talked about how like April into May, they were going through a really manageable portion of their schedule, and it was an opportunity for them to come out of it, right?
Right.
They just got done with a part of their schedule where they played Twins, Rockies, Nationals, Angels, Rockies, D-backs. Okay. Extremely manageable. Well, now you get the Tigers, the Yankees, Nationals, Marlins, Reds, Marlins, still kind of manageable. The problem is once you start getting into June, that's when it gets really tough for the Mets. And so like they've got the next 2 weeks in my mind to start to turn the tide a little bit. Like if they can't, if 2 weeks from now you're 10 or 15 games under and we get to June 1st and you're going Mariners, Padres, Cardinals, Braves, Reds, Phillies, Cubs, Phillies, Blue Jays, that's a brutal June. Yeah. And so that's why I've got the Mets so low. Like they're hanging on a thread right now. They've got to start winning.
Yeah, I just look, they can't, they tried something, right? They shook up the roster a little bit. They replaced Pete Alonso. They replaced Brandon Nimmo. They brought in Jorge Polanco and Bo Bichette and Luis Robert, and it just isn't working. It's simply not working. Yeah. All right. Tier 4 is the rest, but I'm curious as to where you have this rank, right? And I think this is honestly maybe the most interesting tier because you're judging this based on now and their future. Yeah. So you can pretty much imagine that team 30 and 29 on this list, they're not great now and they don't have a great future. So how does this shake out?
Yeah. So this is the whole reason a big part of the reason I wanted to do these power rankings was number one, to separate out the middle, right? Because there are so many teams toiling in the middle right now. But also because I think 22 through 30 gives you a sense of the vibe of the organization, right? Because these are all teams that are performing poorly this year. They're not playoff teams this year. I feel comfortable saying at this point. Maybe a couple of these fan bases will disagree and think that they're still in it. I just don't. But then it's kind of more of a vibe check, right? Like where are things heading from here? So 22, top of this category, I've got the Twins. Okay. And I can see Twins fans rolling their eyes. here's why I have them in the top of this group. I think they are closer to contention than almost anybody else in this group. Like, this has been a consistently top 10 farm system over the last 2 years. Okay, right now I think depending on where you look, you'll see them between maybe 5 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a good job of restocking and adding to that at last trade deadline. And it's funny, you look through it, that Carlos Correa trade, getting him off the books, pretty good deal. Like, pretty good move. And you think about what they got back for a bullpen arm in Yohan Duran. I mean, Eduardo Tait has been awesome for them in the minors as a catching prospect. You think about what they've got with Walker Jenkins, what they've got with some of these other guys, Caitlin Culpepper, Rodriguez. These guys are hitting the cover off the ball for them in the minors. And it's not hard for me to imagine a healthy rotation of Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, I was going to say Archie Bradley, Tosh Bradley, and Mick Abel. There's a lot there, man. Like, and that's without even thinking about, guys like Bailey Ober and Simeon Woods Richardson, who are at least serviceable major league arms. Like, the biggest problem for the Twins this year, Mike, and what has separated them from kind of the glut of that division is actually been their bullpen. Like, the lineup's been relatively okay. The starting pitching's actually been pretty good. The problem is they can't get anybody out in the late innings. Well, bullpens are the easiest thing to fix year to year. They're also pretty random year to year. And so if you told me that the Twins won the AL Central in 2027, I wouldn't bat an eye at that at all.
Yeah. Right.
That's probably a little more than you wanted me to say about any of these.
No, I agree.
But I think the Twins are really interesting because, like, the vibe around their fans is a lot of frustration with ownership, and it's correct because they're not spending money and they're not making enough of effort to make the team better. But there's a lot in the cupboard there. Like, there's reason to believe in where they're going.
Yep.
23, another team that I feel pretty good about, despite them being in the bottom 10 of the Marlins.
I'm surprised you didn't have the Marlins in the tier below this, or the tier before this. I'm surprised.
Really? Well, talk to me about your feelings on the Marlins.
Well, I just figured that your Marlins vibes would be a little bit better than the Mets, at least from my perspective. Just because the Marlins are young and they're spunky and they've got some talent that can work there, I still think their pitching's pretty good. Like, I'm surprised you didn't have them earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I just think the Mets still have more talent overall on the roster, and I feel more confident that the Mets are going to, like, really invest in trying to make it happen this year.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
And, like, when I look at it from a standings perspective, like, nobody's like, at this point, standings wise, nobody's, like, mathematically out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I feel confident that the Mets are still going to be, like, really fighting to be in this thing. Like, I mean, you look at it from a, like, pure wild card perspective, the Mets are 8 games out of the wild card with, like, 120 games left. Like, they're not out of it, right?
It's a lot of steep hill to climb, I think.
It is, but I think the Mets have more desperation to climb that hill, whereas I think the Marlins understand that they're building something, right? So that's part of it for me. That being said, like, I do like what the Marlins are building. Like, this is a really young roster with quite a bit of talent. And, like, it's been really cool to see Liam Hicks and Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards and these guys perform. There are also some guys like Jacob Marcy, Kyle Stowers, who are not really performing up to expectation. But, like, they've done a really good job of just stocking their system with talent. And so, assuming they want to win in the next few years, I think the window is going to be open for them to do so.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think the Marlins are one of those teams where, like, they were either going to be at the top of this tier or at the bottom of the last one, just because I believe in their future if they ever decide to invest. like they certainly have the young talent. They know how to. The Marlins know how to develop big league talent. They know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's just the second portion of it that they failed to do on a year in and year out basis.
For sure. 24th, I've got the Red Sox, and part of me wanted to leave them a little bit lower on this list, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But
I
mean, I think when you think about the pitching side, like, I think Tole and Early have both looked pretty good. Obviously, like, at some point, some point, maybe you'll see Sonny Gray pitching again, right? Like Ranger Suarez coming around maybe a little bit. Like there's still talent on the major league roster here. Roman Anthony is still worth being excited about. I know Marcelo Meyer hasn't really shown it, but like there's still some prospect pedigree here. I think there's enough to believe in with the Red Sox that I'm not willing to like throw them down with the bottom feeders.
Yeah.
All that said, what I don't trust with the Red Sox is I don't trust like the organization and the front office from a decision-making perspective. And you and I have kind of beaten that to death on this show. Like think about like firing Alex Cora. I mean, you talk about identifying the wrong problem and pissing off your whole clubhouse. Like it's just bad. It's just bad decision making. And the Devers trade looks okay now, but I mean they didn't get enough for Rafi Devers. They let Alex Bregman walk just because they were pinching pennies. Like if I'm a Red Sox fan, like I expect my team to be not 24th on a list like this. Like,
oh yeah. Well, and listen, as a Yankee fan, I hate the Red Sox with every fiber of my being. But let's be honest, like the Red Sox are a premier organization in Major League Baseball. They have been for a very, very long time, right? This is not acceptable by their ownership group. It just simply is not acceptable the way that they handle their team. And I will say this too. I mean, you say it like, I mean, Roman Anthony, certainly there's something to be excited about, right? Marcelo Meyer, there's certainly something to be excited about there. They have a pretty decent amount of young players that, have potential, but none of them have also broken out. You know what I mean? Like we've yet to see the brilliance of Roman Anthony. We have yet to see, like, those are both top 10 prospects in all of baseball. Like you're expecting those guys to be top tier level players. Now, like, again, all of that can be put into retrospect, but at the same time, they also relied so heavily on the success of those players in order for them to be good this year, right? Like they really put a lot of weight into those top tier guys. And if they were we talked about it at the beginning of the season, if they're not excellent, they're just not that good. Like there's just not a whole lot there, especially offensively.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think they jumped the gun a little bit, right? Like, you're not really giving these guys an opportunity to develop the way you'd like to see them develop because you're putting too much on their plate. And so, I mean, I think you hit it on the head there. In 25th, I've got the Chicago White Sox, and for a team like the Red Sox that's disappointed probably to be down at 24, if you're the White Sox, 25 is a step up for them. And I think it's a deserved step up for them. Like you look at what's going on
outside of the bottom 5.
You look at their corner infielders. Miguel Vargas is quietly breaking into the hitter the Dodgers thought they had. And I'm really happy to see that for him.
Yeah.
We've talked about Munetaka Murakami and how fun he's been. He is cool. Everything that they could possibly want him to be. And you think about like on the pitching side, the rebuild is slowly working. Like some of these guys are like I'll put it this way. It's not the worst pitching staff in baseball anymore. And I don't really think it's a bottom 5 pitching staff in baseball anymore. It's a bottom half pitching staff, but they're getting better. The rebuild is slowly working. So, they're not there yet. I don't think they're going to be there next year, but like in the AL Central, the contention window is always closer than it appears, right?
Yeah.
Like if this team makes good decisions for another year and a half, they could be a contender in 2028.
Yeah.
I can see it. Like, so, for the first time in a while, I like the direction this team is going, and they're starting to see some things work. So that's been cool for them. Giants at 26. We talked about them a good bit when we talked about the Patrick Bailey trade. They have more talent at the major league level than some of these teams I've listed above them. But I don't think Buster Posey is cut out for this Pobo stuff. I don't think he knows what he's doing. This Devers contract is not looking good.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a pick for Patrick Bailey, which what a strange trade. A starting catcher getting traded for a draft pick. It's just like you don't see trades like that. But they better hit on these picks, and they better hit on these picks in a special way because this front office has not done a good job. And if I'm the Giants, I'm starting to wonder if I need to just completely rebuild the whole thing.
Yeah.
Nationals at 27. Unfortunately for them, I don't want to call it a failed rebuild, but outside of James Wood, like
it just doesn't look good.
It hasn't worked. They still have some talent in the organization. I do think that, after some of the changes they've had in the front office and at manager, like I think they have smarter people in charge now, and I'm expecting things to turn a positive direction for them, but they got a long way to go.
Yep.
Astros at 28, Mike.
Yeah, I was waiting for them. I was like, wait a second. But listen, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's a similar story to San Francisco in a way for me. Like, they certainly have more talent at the major league level than several of these teams above them. But at the end of the day, like, the prospect cash for them is bare. Like, there's not much coming up through that system at all. And on the pitching side, they cannot get anybody out. And so Yordan Alvarez can be the best hitter in the world, like he's kind of been this year. And it just doesn't matter if you can't get anybody out and your lineup goes 3 or 4 deep with major league players.
I think there's a real shot he gets traded. I honestly do. I think there's a real shot that happens.
Yeah. I mean, the Astros are interesting because we've seen this over the years with different organizations where teams get used to contention, right? And they get used to being a team that expects to make World Series and to make ALCSs. It's really hard when you're starting to ask to shift your fans' expectations. And I think Jim Crane is struggling with that. I mean, I saw Ken Rosenthal, he was on FS1 about 2 hours ago talking about the Astros, and he's basically saying, hey, they are not going to sell until they are like really out of it. Like, they're going to chase this thing for as long as they can. And like, I respect it, right? I'm sure the fans like hearing that, but there's not like prime Garrett Cole is not walking through that door, right? Like, there's not much to look forward to pitching wise here. Sure, Hunter Brown will eventually be healthy, but like, they're going to be out of it pretty quick here.
They will.
And I obviously we just watched the Dodgers play them in Houston. Or I did. It's a lot of guys that probably belong in Sugarland right now, not in Houston. A lot of that's due to injury. They've had horrible injury luck, but some of it's also due to the fact that like they just they're not investing in the team like they did a few years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of the leaps and jumps that they've tried to make the last couple of years have cost them prospect capital. And the cheating stuff has now cost them prospect capital. That's part of why now you're really bare down low. So all of that to say, I think the intelligent thing for the Astros to do would be to gather as many prospects as you can from other teams for guys like Christian Walker, guys like Isaac Paredes, all your bullpen arms. I think they need to go into full sell mode, tear it down, rebuild the farm system, be bad for a couple years. They've done that before under Jim Crane. I think that's the direction they need to go. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they should literally dump all of their pieces. All the guys you just mentioned. I mean, I think Yordan Alvarez would get back a haul. I think that's the reason why they would move him. I would be surprised if they moved on from somebody like Jeremy Pena, but like other than Jeremy Pena and Hunter Brown, I think everybody else is on the table for them, and maybe like Altuve because they love him.
But I think it's fair to throw Pena and Brown's names in there too, because I mean these are guys that have been in the bigs for a couple years now, right? Like,
yeah, right.
They're going to have to get paid. I don't know what the exact timing is on each one, but like those guys are going to be due contracts in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, right.
And it's are the Astros going to be in a contention window where it makes sense to pay those guys at that time? Mm-hmm. I have a feeling they're not going to be. So,
probably not, yeah.
If I'm the Astros right now, my focus is, hey, it's 2026. We're not a very good ball club. What can I do to win this division in 2029, 2030? That's where my focus would be if I'm the owner of the Astros right now. Yep. But that's a really hard pill to swallow.
No, it is. But they also, I mean, think about it this way too, Dalton. I mean, they were so good for so much of the last 10 years.
Right.
Right. That like this is as textbook as They had a lot of success, hit the peak, then they're coming back down the slope. I mean, it really is like it's forming the perfect arch there. You know what I mean? They're just on the tail end of this thing.
Yeah, and this is when it's most painful for an ownership group that cares about winning, and when it's frankly most painful for the fans, right? Like you have this idea in your mind of what the Astros are, and they're just not that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, we'll see what to me, them and the Giants are the two teams that I'm most interested to watch how they operate front office wise over the next 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're smart, I think they should both start selling pieces at top dollar. Last two teams on the list, neither one of these are a surprise. At 29, I've got the Rockies. Give them some credit. They're at least trying to modernize a little bit as an organization, but they haven't given me enough to believe that they should be any higher than this. You could make an argument they should be ahead of the Astros, but I'm not there. And then at 30th, the Angels, as long as Artie Moreno's the owner there, this is the worst organization in baseball from top to bottom.
Yeah, so the Angels, obviously, I mean, they've been dealing with it for so long, and they have players that have played well, you know, over the past few years at the major league level, right? Like Zach Neto's a real shortstop now. Guys like Joe Adell had a career year last year. I love Logan O'Hoppe. Like they have real players. But yeah, it's just the owner, the owner of that organization is dragging them down with an unbearable weight. It is just so bad the way that they're run. And I think the Rockies are just like, I don't know. They're in an unwinnable situation right now with how strong their division is, first of all. And again, with how handcuffed they are as an ownership group. I don't know. I'm with you on that. Those, I think, are definitely the bottom two. I was curious to see if you were going to put the Rockies 30. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
So Mike, which of these teams, 22 through 30, which of these teams do you think, like, I think the Marlins were the team that you think deserves a little more credit.
Yeah.
You know, which of these teams do you think should be maybe higher or lower outside of them? Are there any of these that stick out to you?
So I think, again, and I think present day, I think the only team really that you can make an argument for to be higher is Boston. Like, I think that's really the team that I'm looking at, and I'm like, okay. Like, I think the Twins are clearly looking at the future right now. The Marlins, same thing. Teams like the White Sox, obviously, are looking at the future. The Nationals are, obviously, their rebuild hasn't worked out, and they need to continue building. The Red Sox, I think, still had, and maybe even still have, current season playoff aspirations. They do. You know what I mean? I don't think the Red Sox at this point believe that they're out of it. Now, I don't think that they're a bad team I don't think that they're a contender by any stretch of the imagination right now, but I also think that there's a real possibility that in the next month they just completely turn it around, get super duper hot, and I still think that possibility's out there. You know what I mean? So I think the Red Sox is they are the team that I'm looking at in that tier that I think you could make the argument to be elevated a little bit, but outside of that, I think it's pretty spot on. I will say there's one team that I really thought you were going to have higher, and I don't know why, but for some reason I did. I kind of thought you were going to put the Baltimore Orioles a little bit higher, and I really did. And again, I think it's just because I look at them as an offensive team that's going to slug with as many teams as there are in baseball. And if they can just find some semblance of competent pitching, then I think they're going to be a problem if they sneak into the playoffs. That's really what I feel about them.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy argument at all. I think, look, with the Orioles, for me, they have just been so bad at developing pitching over the years
it's
that I don't feel that there's a lot of reason to have faith in them turning it around on the pitching side.
Yeah.
And so when I think about it that way, and I'm like, well, I don't like Shane Baz, for example, right? I don't blame them for going and getting that guy and paying him, but it's not working.
Yeah.
It's not working. And that's kind of been the story for them over and over. Like Chris Bassett, it's just not working.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm the Orioles for me have just done such a poor job of developing pitching that I'm not that moved by what their offense is.
What they're capable of. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and the other thing too, like when I look at WRC plus like across baseball, right? And this is obviously like full season. I'm not breaking this down by any split. Their WRC plus is exactly 100. They're an exactly average offensive team.
Yeah, right.
And so to me, I'm like, if the Orioles are an average offensive team, I can't really justify putting them higher than 20th as an overall unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it 100% makes sense. I want to go back to tier 1 really quick. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the contenders. I would have obviously put the Dodgers at number 1. What's interesting about the Yankees for me is that the Yankees, they have the best record in the American League. I think a lot of people view them as the clear favorite in the American League. They're 1-8 against winning teams so far this season. They've had a very, modest schedule, to say the least. And against teams that are over 500, they've really struggled. Does that concern you for a top tier World Series contender at this point?
Not in their case. If that were true of, let's say, like the Brewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even the Braves, I'd maybe feel that way. But the Yankees are a proven winner over the last several years. This team that was in the World Series 2 years ago, this team, the one that was, right there last year, right? Like, we know what they are. We know how good they are. And, a 9-game sample against over 500 teams going well, it just doesn't really move me much.
Yeah. Yeah, they just got swept by the Brewers in Milwaukee. They did just lose tonight against the Orioles in Baltimore. So they're on a 4-game losing streak at the moment. But I mean, let's talk let's talk about the Brewers for a second. I mean, they can certainly pitch, right? And that's really what we talked about early in the season. They kind of find ways to muster up good pitching. I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, what are their offensive players, like their everyday players, are they just better than what we think they are? Like, is Bryce Terang like really a stud and we're just not giving him credit for being one? Like, is that really the problem that fans have right now with them?
Bryce Terang is legit. Like, so that part of why I look at the Brewers differently now than I did even last year. I think they are better than they were last year. And a big part of why is because of Bryce Terang. And it's also like William Contreras looks a lot more like he did a couple years ago, where like he's not an MVP candidate, but like a top 5 catcher in baseball. He looks legit. But I mean, dude, Bryce Terang, I mean, this guy, OPS 933, he's hitting 298, 6 bombs, playing elite defense at second base, like great, like, plus base runner. This is like a borderline MVP candidate.
I know. He walked off the Yankees last night.
And so, like, to me, that's the difference, right? I mean, last year you looked at that lineup and you were kind of like, just like, sure, whatever. Like, you look at that lineup last year and you're kind of unmoved by it, right? I think that's changed a little bit. And what impresses me is that, like, they just got Jackson Chourio back. He's barely played. And they still haven't gotten anything from Yelich yet, who's been hurt. And I'm just thinking, like, man, when you put Yelich back in this lineup, it starts looking better. When Andrew Vaughn starts playing every day again, coming back from his injury, this starts to look better. Do I think it's a top 3 to 5 lineup in baseball? No, but the Brewers are under Pat Murphy, they're really good at winning baseball games. They just are. And so if you give Pat Murphy a lineup that's maybe 10th best instead of 20th best, I respect what he can do with that team quite a bit. And I know that's kind of a cop-out, lazy analysis way to go about it. But, like, I mean, look, they let Freddie Peralta go last year. And pitching-wise, they're 8th in baseball in XFIP. in from their starting pitching. Bullpen, they are 4th. Like, it's just what they do. They just churn out good pitchers. So if you think Milwaukee is, let's say, the 5th or 6th best pitching staff in baseball overall, and their lineup is 10th best, that team can win the World Series.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it might be. It can be tough to quantify, but is Pat Murphy just the best manager in baseball right now? I feel like it's really hard to argue otherwise.
I mean, I think there are a number of guys that you could make a good argument for, and he's one of them. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's just tough to quantify, right? Like it's really hard to measure that. Yeah. So all right. I mean, that's. I don't have any other gripes. I honestly I think. I talked a little bit about earlier that I just don't think that there are I don't think that there are 15 teams legitimately like in it. You know what I mean? Like, I think realistically, I think everybody in tier 1 is in it. So the Dodgers, Yankees, Cubs, Braves, Mariners, Phillies, Brewers are all in it. The tier 2 teams that I buy are the Rays, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and the Blue Jays. I think that's it. I don't know that I'm buying any of the AL Central teams, and I'm not buying the Rangers.
Yeah, I'm interested in you not buying the Rangers, and not because I'm somebody that thinks the Rangers are incredible, but I don't know, man. I what Jacob deGrom's doing is legit.
Yeah, they don't hit enough for me. Like, that's like they're kind of having a similar issue to what they did last year, of where the offense just isn't there. Like, I just don't. They don't hit enough for me. And I feel similarly about San Diego, but I just think San Diego's a little, I don't know. I have a feeling about San Diego. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that's the thing with the Rangers for me, is they just simply don't hit enough.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, they're 22nd in baseball in WRC plus. Like, they're not hitting. You know, I think part of it for me too is like they won the World Series a couple years ago, and so there's some part of me that believes in like how they're built. I also think their starting pitching is legitimately really good.
It is good. It's good,
and they're second in baseball in xFIP from starters. I mean, they're ahead of the Yankees. They're ahead of the Dodgers in that category. They're ahead of the Brewers in that category.
Yeah.
You know,
and I know like the numbers are not like eye-popping good for Nathan Eovaldi, but like I'm always going to have faith in that dude, like in big games. I just am. Like, that dude is so good.
Well, the other side of it too is like some of their bullpen guys have been really good. Like Jacob Latz has come out of nowhere and is like unhittable. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they're a team, like, I think they belong in the same category for me as like the Padres and the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays, where it's like they're very clearly flawed. But when I think about the upside, I can see it. But no, I mean, I don't think it's absurd to not be able to see it.
Yeah. No, I just, like I said, I'll in a month I could feel differently, but as of now, I'm not there with them. I'm not there with, but again, whatever. All righty. You have any hot corner?
I don't. My life has been a little too crazy right now. I haven't had a lot to pour into it. So
yeah, I hear you.
You know, we'll see. I mean,
it is what it is.
For anybody who's listening who doesn't know, my wife is due sometime in the next 2 to 4 weeks with a baby, and so things are crazy over here. We're moving houses. We got a lot going on. So
the bicoastal baby will be born.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we'll see. Obviously, we'll be here for as many Mondays as we can be, but you know, life is life. So we're gonna
is the way it is, man. It just is what it is. All right, that does it for us. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast, exclusively on the Grid Network every Monday, 8:00 Eastern. We'll see you when we see you.